Hello, Evan Kirstel. Welcome to the Doing CX Right show.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm great because you're here today.
Oh, well, that's very kind. I'll try not to disappoint you.
Oh, absolutely not. Well, I know who you are, and I'm sure a lot of people on social media, several 100,000 know who you are. But please tell my audience, who are you? What do you do professionally?
Well, I wouldn't call it a profession, but I'm sort of a content entrepreneur, content creator, tech influencer, industry analyst, and social media fanatic, sort of all rolled into one.
And you are definitely out there with some very smart wisdom and advice, which is why people are going to love this show today.
Well, I hope so. Now you set the expectation really high, so I really hope not to disappoint the fans.
Well, and in customer experience speak, I absolutely deliver on the promise. So, what is your why? Why are you into all of these things that you described that you're doing constantly?
Well, social media in particular has been a personal obsession. I'd say kind of an unhealthy obsession for over a dozen years. And so I have met amazing people, clients, who's who, frankly, in business and tech on social media, and grew it over 8-9 years into a business, thriving business, a practice helping clients with digital and social. And so taking my industry background as part of it. So, I have, perspective and insights and a point of view, and combined with my social reach, I love to put out content like we're doing now.
But you could have picked any content. So why technology? Why these topics?
That's a good question. I'm a total geek, so geek at heart. And that's what keeps me interested and engaged, and early adopter of tech and early tinkerer of all things computing as a kid, and then right through studying electrical engineering and working in tech for 30 years. So, again, it's my passion. It's what's, I find fascinating personally and, of course, professionally as well. So, that's hello, fellow geeks.
Well, I'm very glad. I want to emphasize that you said geek at heart, because I am passionate like you in technology enhancing our experiences, but we cannot lose the heart in business. So I want to call that out.
Yeah, there's a certain lack of empathy and human connection in a lot of the tech we use. And the tech that does delight us and thrill us and is fun to use has that user experience, that user interface, that customer experience in the case of a service that is fun and that is human. And if you look at even things like ChatGPT, which I've been obsessed with recently the last few weeks, it's humanity. It's outwardly looking humanity that's so intriguing. So yeah, I think it's the intersection of humanity and tech that's I think most interesting.
Yes, I share that in common. We're going to get to that in a minute. But before we do, what is one fun fact that people may or may not know about you, personally or professionally?
One fun fact, I guess I speak fluent German, not from my heritage, but just having lived and worked in Europe for almost 10 years and then studied it in high school and been in college, and have enjoyed the language. So that's, I guess, a fun fact. We could do this in German if you'd like. We could switch to German. That would really turn off your audience immensely.
Well, there would be a segment for it for sure, but I wouldn't understand what you're saying. So we'll keep it to English for now.
We'll switch to English.
Yes. Well, all right. Let's get to the heart of this conversation and the tech of this conversation. First of all, you know a lot about generative AI, artificial intelligence. Can you explain in kindergarten terms, what is that?
Well, it's a technology that has essentially been fed tons of data, trained on tons of data, thousands of gigabytes, terabytes of data, and that data has been trained to emulate, simulate, behave, respond like a human would in the case of ChatGPT from OpenAI in writing.
Hmm.
So when prompted or asked a question, given direction, the response is unbelievably human-like. And so that same approach has been taken to images, pictures, video, and now text. And so it's generated by AI, but it's something that could have almost looks like it was generated by a human being based on that training set. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah, which is a little scary that we humans are training the robots. And you could argue they might replace us in some conditions, and we're training them to do that.
We're training them. There's a lot of underpaid workers in the third world who are being trained to train the robots. So the training data is also being pulled from the internet and pictures in terms of facial recognition. So there are a lot of interesting and, as you say, scary scenarios. But it's here and it's now, and it's being leveraged not just for fun and games by consumers at the moment, like myself, but by businesses, as you know, in conversational AI and in customer service and
Yeah.
chatbot scenarios, and all kinds of business processes are being created leveraging AI. So there's sort of a quiet revolution happening outside of the consumer, but it's now the consumer, like the average consumer, is going to start seeing it sort of more firsthand, which is really interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like it was quiet, and that December 2022, it blew up. And I guess it's Chat GPT that we're all playing with and seeing how it's disruptive in positive ways too.
Yeah, it's going to be disruptive in many ways, positive. There are going to be winners and losers, just like any tech innovation revolution. There's going to be a lot of have nots and haves.
Yeah.
So if you're a copywriter and that's all you do is just generate copy for a newspaper or for a blog day in, day out, you should worry, potentially worry about your future. However, if you're someone like me
Yeah.
or you who are using these tools,
Hmm.
it's exciting. It's kind of the best of times. We can really create all kinds of new content opportunities and leverage apps that are based on Chat GPT and AI to be more prolific and productive and interesting. So fascinating times.
Tell me now use cases. I'm sure there's some listeners who don't even know what we're talking about. So, can you put in some practical terms in business, whether it's customer service, agents, social media, maybe pick it apart. But what are some real cases that you're finding AI being really helpful?
Well, we've all experienced terrible, interactive voice response systems and terrible chatbots. This next wave of technology based on conversational AI, things like ChatGPT and other platform technologies, will be much better. Will be much more natural, much more intuitive, much friendlier. They'll understand context, and they'll actually be able to help you. And that's the vision of this next wave. If you talk about contact center, for example, or customer service agents, or reaching out to Google or Amazon or Apple to get an update on your order with a text, a text message or chatting. This next wave of conversational AI is going to be super intelligent, and it's that. So this is an efficiency that the providers love. It's going to be much more consumer friendly. It's going to be better than the Amazon, the Siri, the Alexa that you're used to conversing with, and that's the promise. It's going to make life easier for consumers and reduce costs and increase efficiency for businesses alike. So that's just one use case in the customer service realm that you're so familiar with.
But let's play this out. So I'm on a website and I go to chat. I need help with whatever topic it is. Now, today we have a chat bot. It gives me some canned responses, and I have to kind of fight it to get to a human. So, are you visioning that I'm not going to need to get to a human? Or are you visioning the technology being able to enhance with the human?
No, I think it's both. We will find AI in customer service will likely be able to cover 80 or 90% of your average requests. And then the humans will focus on not just the 10, 15, 20% of requests that can't be handled by, the technology, but will actually assist the agent in getting help, through providing an agent with, sort of a natural language resource to get answers, to get, training and education, get direction and assistance behind the scenes. So it'll really empower agents as well as,
Mm.
the consumers and callers. So there's so many
Mm-hmm.
ways that it will be worked into, these workflows that it's going to be pretty revolutionary.
I also see when people need help, the ability to use AI to serve up articles that can answer the questions and help self serve more and deflect those trouble tickets. Do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, the challenge is many consumer facing companies have no idea who their consumers are. And
Mm.
that's part of the problem in servicing them. It's not like a B2B or business. They don't have a database of you, your bio, your background, your needs, your wants. So you go into these situations completely blind. And whereas AI can help build a better profile of you, your history, your needs, your wants, your frustrations, and
Mm-hmm.
eliminate. We all see that, have the experience. You work with phone companies of being blind, transferred around from department to department, desperate in search of someone who can help you. And the hope and the belief is that AI and other technologies will streamline those
Mm-hmm.
business processes behind the scenes. So that's the hope. We'll see.
Yeah, I also believe, hope, need that when we do talk to, whether it's the technology by phone or in text, that conversation gets transferred better to the human, because way too often the human is then asked for the same information. And that is such a pain point.
Yeah, there's just a lot of legacy technology out there with these big companies. We saw the impact at Southwest just this week, for example. Antiquated systems, almost paper-based systems developed decades ago, and that completely crashed like a house of cards when there was strain put on it. And so, technologies that sort of empower humans to get answers, make decisions, given the tools and education, even like training, coaching, and mentoring will be part of what AI will do for the customer service or agents moving
Mm.
forward. I mean, these will be
Mm-hmm.
all developments that will help that, but we're just there's way too much technical debt and legacy that we're stuck with at the moment. And for different reasons, companies simply haven't upgraded, invested, re-architected, or transformed the way that they should have.
For those who don't know about what happened with Southwest, can you summarize?
Well, it's really been the breaking story this week. Pretty much their crew scheduling system completely collapsed. So pilots and flight attendants and other staff were distributed around the country with no idea that systems wise where they are, whether they were able to fly. And so they had to wholesale cancel probably virtually all of their flights to some airports. And in the process, of course, their booking reservation systems crashed, phone systems crashed because people tried to engage and reschedule. So it's a complete meltdown of their entire, flight network, IT network. And there are still people stuck around the country as a result. You can't reach anyone. You can't phone anyone. And it's sad. It's kind of pathetic, actually, that a
Mm.
company that is as big as important as Southwest was is building its crew scheduling and crew planning around, chewing gum and, number two pencils.
So, what could we learn from them?
I think it's the urgency, the imperative to not just Band-Aid and patch old tech, but to double down, triple down on investing and upgrading key systems.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of Southwest, they had projects underway that didn't have the sense of urgency. A lot of times, these are huge investments, and so many companies are unwilling to make them because they do impact the bottom line. And hiring the best and the brightest in IT is expensive.
Mm.
And so they, it's sort of this, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it kind of mentality until, things really break in a major way.
Mm-hmm.
We saw, a ton of airlines came through with flying colors. It's really separating these sort of situations, kind of separate the haves from the have-nots with tech. You see the companies who have IT leadership, CIOs who understand systems, in-house expertise, and those companies that maybe don't or kind of outsource it and don't have digital and tech as, their core, mission. I mean, Southwest, I'm sure, thinks themselves as an airline, not as an IT company, when they probably need to think of themselves as an IT and a business process company and an airline,
And a customer experience company, because all of this, at the end of the day, affects you, me, all of us.
Yeah, it's customer experience and employee experience. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always enjoyed Southwest. I thought they had good service. Their planes were on time. It was easy to book, good website. You could book directly. They had the app. They had messaging. So outwardly, it seemed like customer service or CX was working well at Southwest. What wasn't working was the employee experience. And they had this antiquated system of scheduling and assigning routes and trips to staff and employees. They were not treating them particularly well through the pandemic. They were, I understand from anecdotal stories that just employees weren't treated that well in terms of pay and other things. And that broke the system. So you can be amazing looking outward, but if you're not treating your employees right and giving them the right tools and apps and services and employee experience, then it's all for naught.
Absolutely. Wow, there's a lot we can uncover just in this breaking story. How would you say we can blend, we have to coexist with the technology? In fact, we already talked about how it can be beneficial. Do you have concern about the human coexisting with the technology? What's your perspective on how do we keep the heart of business with the disruptive tech?
Yeah, I think it's really about empowering your people with tech and not just throwing applications or devices or apps at them and hoping something sticks.
Mm-hmm.
So the best companies out there invest an inordinate amount of time on training and enablement and surveys and trials to make sure any technology they're deploying is well understood by the company. I work for a big vendor. I won't name them, big, top 10 IT vendor. And the amount of applications and services and workflows and business processes internally that you had to go through as an employee was just absurd. It was just ridiculous. And it would have made your day a misery. So the idea of streamlining those processes, introducing like things like RPA and automation to take the workload off the employees, automating, basic tasks. Think about things like employee expenses and all that hassle. I'm so glad I'm out of the corporate rat race. I don't have to do that anymore, but all these things are a burden, and it takes time away from productive, deep work when internally in an organization you have to deal with, poor tools, bad tools, legacy, outdated tools. And so increasingly companies, that move fast, can leverage like best of breed products and services and apps and SaaS and third party, to make their business kind of hum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you see the metaverse playing in all of this?
Well, I think we have kinds of metaverses today. When I'm on a Zoom call and maybe I have an avatar and I'm messaging and doing real time video and chatting. I mean, I think that is a kind of metaverse.
Mm.
I don't buy into the meta version of the metaverse with sort of torsos walking around communicating with each other. But I think a metaverse of work, a metaverse, industrial metaverse, where you're collaborating and sharing, and even in three dimensions when it makes sense, is going to be amazing. But I think it's still a ways off for the average worker. Gaming and all the fun stuff aside, for the utility is still a ways off.
Mm. Someone told me that they either used it or knew someone. It fascinated me that they put on the goggles and they were in a contact center and they actually worked from home, but they felt like they were in a contact center and could see. It felt like they were in person together. And that's a really interesting application. I could see that happening.
I don't know. That sounds a bit of a hellscape to me. But that's just my personal opinion. Look, I have VR. I use Oculus. I think it's good for some things in business in the context. I think one is training.
Mm-hmm.
People like UPS who are using it for all kinds of training requirements for medical education, training
Mm.
doctors and surgeons, augmented reality for helping hands-free in the operating room. So they're very flight simulators kind of thing. They're very practical and useful
Mm-hmm.
examples of VR, but it should be used as a utility, as a tool, not as a cure-all for
Mm.
uh, some sort of fantasy of working together in a room. So yeah, I mean, I think I saw Meta's announcement on VR sales, headset sales was way down. That it's not taking off. So I think we have a ways to go. We need sort of a unicorn device, hopefully some sort of Apple glasses or others to really
Yeah.
pave the way forward. But at the moment, I think we're in sort of a bit of a standstill when it comes to VR adoption.
For people who want to learn about what we're talking about and stay ahead of the technology and the future of work, besides following you and me, what do you recommend as good sources in addition?
Yeah, I would, Twitter. I know some people are not fans and view it as a bit of a nightmare, but there's tremendous, content and insights and thought leaders. And you don't even have to go there for the people, the personalities. You can go there to follow keywords and hashtags like emerging tech or tech trends or CX. And if you follow those keywords, those hashtags, you'll just find a wealth of information. So whatever industry or discipline or vertical you're in, there's a great community out there that you can tap into and learn from and connect with, both
Yeah.
personally and professionally. So focus on those
Mm-hmm.
niches, those verticals, keywords, or even hashtags. On LinkedIn, you can follow the same hashtags, and it's quite educational as well as being
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Mm-hmm. Great advice. So, as we're getting to the end, I told you this goes fast. What is the best leadership advice you've been given or gave to someone else?
I think it was, when I had mentors. I work for myself now, and I was, working in companies over 25 years. It was the best, I think, advice that I was given or discovered was the importance of those informal meetings, check-ins, touch bases, one-on-one,
Mm.
once a week. So few managers actually do that. They may have a huge organization. They may have
Hmm.
staff meetings. They may have team meetings, but they don't just virtually or in person. Let's just touch base for 20 minutes a week and see how things are going and listen and ask questions and show some empathy and connection with their staff. And that's a shame, because there's one piece of advice. I think that would be it.
I agree. And in the future, when this disruptive technology is really here, I would say don't send your robot to that one on one either. Show up.
Yeah, and we're all show some humanity, show some
Yeah.
empathy, ask questions, and I think people appreciate it.
Oh, I know so. Absolutely. For one who is on the side of receiving those one on ones, and for one, as I lead a team, and I really hold myself accountable to those check-ins. It's so important. And I want to ask you, if I had a ton of CEOs and leaders, entrepreneurs in my room right now, what's the one takeaway you want them to remember?
Don't just be a headline reader when it comes to this new and emerging technology, whether it's it's social media, whether it's chat GPT, whether it's these tools and platforms. Roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, try things firsthand. Don't just read about it in the Wall Street
Mm.
Journal. And I think being a practitioner is as important when it comes to new tech as just understanding it. So whether it's, you're at social media, whether it's some new app, whether it's some cool tool, if you haven't logged on and tried it out yourself and experimented like, we're doing here with Riverside and this live streaming platform, then you're really missing out on the full potential of the tech.
I agree. And I actually live my business life based on what my old boss once told me. And it was an acronym TAR: test, analyze, adjust, repeat. And that
Perfect.
applies, really does apply. So, yeah. And last question, my favorite one. If you could go back in time and talk to your younger 20-year-old self based on what you know now that you didn't know then, what would you tell the younger you?
I'd say, there's this thing you've never heard of called Bitcoin. Go buy, spend all your spare change and buy this thing and keep it in a wallet that you don't lose or
Mm.
sell, and then talk to me in 20 years. So, but in all seriousness, I guess I'm not sure. I guess that's what I would tell my younger self.
Well, it would be interesting to see what this generation will do as they listen to us speak about what we've learned. Well, thank you so much for being here with me. And I will share your social channels and your website. Is that the best places to find you?
Yeah, just Google me. You can see me everywhere, and I'll be at quite a few shows and events, Cloud Communications Alliance and IT Expo and Enterprise Connect and Mobile World Congress. So I'd love to see people in person this year. It's been quite a pandemic.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You're awesome.
Thanks so much.